business is a big force for good. Can you tell us what you've been doing in that area recently? I think you're doing some really inspiring stuff. Could you share that with us? And Elon, as Richard said, each business, each entrepreneur is, even if it's for profit, can be a force for good, and you've got a lot of work to prove that as well. There were a lot of my friends told me to ask you about Hyperloop. I just thought if you'd share a few of the latest updates on that. I think you've got an update August 12th coming up, but I wondered if there's anything you could share with this exclusive audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, we'll just answer the first part of the question. I mean, a company is, like I said, a group of people working together to create a product or service. So as long as they're not protected by some sort of legislation or somehow, have an unreasonable monopoly on things, then they only exist to the degree that they're doing useful things for their fellow people, for other people out there, and so I think it's, good, forceful good. I mean, there's a little subjectivity as to what good represents, but it's fair to say that most companies only exist if they're doing something useful, and I mean, that's the way I certainly view things for my companies. Is like, how do we make things that people would really like and would find really useful in their lives? That's the goal. It's really pretty commonsensical, I think. And then, well, let's see, on the Hyperloop, what can I say? When I was trying, I can say a bit about where the Hyperloop's coming from and what I think the goal of such a thing would be. I originally sort of started thinking about it when I read about California's high-speed rail project, which was somewhat disappointing because it's not a very high-speed rail. It's got an average speed of, I think, 125 or 130 miles an hour, and takes a slightly circuitous route from Los Angeles to San Francisco. And so it's actually worse than, let's say, taking the plane. I mean, I'd much rather take a Virgin America plane than take the train. And so it seems like, why would one want to do a big expensive project like that, which is slower than alternatives and likely, I think, will be more expensive than alternatives? So I get a little sad when things aren't getting better in the future. And another example would be like the Concorde being retired and the fact that there's no supersonic passenger transport. I think that's quite sad, because you want the future to be better than the past, and or at least I do quite a bit. And anyway, so I got to thinking about what could be the best way to get from LA to San Francisco, or essentially what would be the optimal solution in the special case of a city pair that is less than, say, 1,000 miles, and where there's a great deal of traffic between those city pairs. I think once you get to the sort of 1,000-mile range, you should just take a supersonic plane. But less than that, you spend a lot of time climbing and descending. So since the climb-descent part is significant for routes less than 1,000 miles, or 1,500 kilometers, or 1,600 kilometers, I should say, it may be better to figure some other means of doing it. So one necessary. So if you think of like the criteria. Apologies if this is going on too long. Just cut me off.
No, go ahead.
You have to first say, well, what is the right question to ask? Like, how should this be framed? And I think you want a transport mechanism that, let's say, is on roughly twice as fast as the next best alternative, that costs less, that is safer, that is not subject to weather, and is more convenient. Like, if there was such a thing, then obviously I think most people would take it. In fact, it would increase the travel between such city pairs because of the increased convenience. So you could conceivably live in San Francisco and work in LA. Just as when the Union Pacific joined California, people were saying, "Oh, there's hardly anyone that lives in California. This whole railway line is a silly thing, and they calculated the number of people that would travel as being very low because there wasn't anywhere to go to. But that was because people were going by wagon, which is extremely inconvenient. Anyway, so the Hyperloop, is something that would go effectively faster than the speed of sound. Because you'd have to travel at an average speed of around 700 miles an hour from LA to San Francisco to get there in half an hour. It does involve a tube, but not a vacuum tube.
But frictionless.
No, it's really not frictionless, but very low friction. Anyway, the full details, sorry for the laborious answer, will be on Monday.
Okay, thanks a lot.